Many thanks to Game Mill for sponsoring this video. As people, our identities are largely formed by our experiences. Experiences build us up from a foundational level. They determine much of our personalities, our interests, our senses of humor, all sorts of things that make us who we are. And the current estimate is that roughly 39% of my experiential foundation consists of 90s Nicktoons. During my formative years, my brain was exposed to so much Nickelodeon, between the channel and the magazine, that I believe it had a dramatic impact on my personality. That's why when Game Mill approached me about sponsoring a video on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, which is available now for all major platforms, click the link in the description for more info, I jumped at the chance. They gave me an early copy of the game and told me to play it and give my honest opinion, and I'm here to do just that. Let us begin. Whoosh. I did a review of the first Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and the thing that struck me most was how authentically these characters were portrayed. And I'm happy to say that the sequel handles the characters just as perfectly, if not even more so. And this really is my favorite thing about the game as a fan of classic Nick. The character models look so good. They very smoothly transition between poses, and those poses, they play perfectly to the camera, so they're just as expressive as a 2D animated character would be. It's actually really impressive how they were able to achieve such a visual style with 3D characters. They perfectly translated these 2D images. And there are plenty of characters here I'm less familiar with, but I can only assume that they are all handled with equal care, because the characters I grew up watching, it is immediately obvious that they are perfect. Namely here, it's Rocco, it's Angry Beavers, and the big one is Ren and Stimpy. I was a massive fan of all those shows, and I actually watched a lot of Hey Arnold too, so that's a good one too. And seeing these characters here, it is such a delight. Every single little thing they do, every little pose, every animation, it all feels like it comes straight from the cartoons. I mean, obviously you've got the moves themselves, they're all thematically appropriate. They all reference classic character traits and moments and gags. But even the little stuff, the tiniest little details, these are pulled from really specific moments, specific instance from their respective shows. It's remember in that one episode of Ren and Stimpy when Stimpy did this thing and then Ren reacts with that one face? Well, they put that exact face in here. It's so cool. The game is constantly tapping into these little visual memories that are buried in my brain. And it's a delight, I mean, it's fun for nostalgia, but then it just gives the impression that the developers really put an absolute ton of care and love into this project. They were clearly huge fans of these shows and grew up watching them just as much as I did. Oh man, and the voice acting is a thing as well. The first game didn't have any voices at all at launch, and it was a little bit weird, I gotta admit, but the characters now all have loads of voice lines, and many of these are also deep cuts. They've clearly been re-recorded for the game, but again, they reference really specific lines from specific episodes of the shows, and the sheer surprise of some of these line drops had me laughing out loud. Overall, the presentation and all the references and stuff, it's all really good. The characters have a bit more shine to them in this sequel, a little bit more polish. I don't know, something about the lighting style or something. They're very smooth. They really pop. They're just fun to look at. So let's talk about the gameplay though. A reminder, I am not a big fighting game guy. I've played some Smash in my day, and this game is a very Smash similar platform fighter, but I'm not good at these kinds of games. I don't really understand most of the nuances. This is all coming from a pretty casual perspective, but I can see that this team seriously wants to deliver a great fighting game that real fighting game fans will enjoy. This game takes what was established in the first game and refines it further. It tweaks it. It just makes it better. Naturally, you've got your light attacks and special attacks, but then you've got charge attacks. These feel really punchy. They're just super satisfying to pull off. You can do them in any direction, and you can even charge them up in the air, which is a lot of fun. Then there's this new slime system where you build build up your slime meter and you can use it to boost the power of your special and charge moves. And this is a really cool system. You pull the left trigger to basically inject slime into your next move, so you're kind of choosing to do this on the fly, making all these like split-second decisions of when to do it. It's kind of like a fun mind game because you never know exactly when your opponent is going to use it. I think it's a really neat system, and of course the whole idea of a Nickelodeon game using slime as like the whole boost system, I don't know, it's just perfect. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 did that as well. One thing I will say about the gameplay, it is a lot more technical than I expected. The special moves in particular often have to be used very deliberately if you want to land a hit. It's not quite as easy just to pick up a character and start being amazing with them. You know, it can take a good amount of practice to really learn a fighter. They remind me a lot of the DLC characters in Smash Ultimate. You know, they've got all these like really unique mechanics that really set each one apart from the others. Like take Zim, for instance. You can send out Gur and he maintains a distance from you and like copies your movements so you can deal damage remotely. This puts you at a certain advantage, but when Gur is out, then your up special isn't as powerful, and then you can change Gur's positioning on the fly, like how far away he is from Zim, depending on the map and the situation. And there's a lot of stuff like this. There's a lot of really like particular little unique moves that these characters have, and it's really interesting. And it definitely means that there is a bit of a learning curve. I did find it quite tricky sometimes, but then like when you keep playing a character and these things kind of start to click, you know, it really opens up a lot of possibilities. Yeah, like I said, it can be very technical, and I think that's the kind of thing that usually resonates with most fighting aficionados, I believe. And speaking of which, just like the last game, this one has a great training mode that like logs your inputs. It lets you move frame by frame to analyze frame data. You can view hurt boxes and trajectories and all that stuff. It's really impressive. Like I said, they really want to give people the tools to dig into this game. So now let's talk content. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 has your basic modes. You know, you can set up matches with other players or CPUs. You can customize all the rules and the items. You can use different controller profiles, which I found particularly helpful. You've got your basic fighting game mode where you work your way through a series of challengers. But then this game introduces a full campaign mode. And this right here is the kind of thing that gets in Arlo's attention. There's a whole story with cutscenes and characters and dialogue and everything. It pulls together all the characters, including supporting characters who aren't actually fighters, which is cool. And I would say the variety is what's fun here. You know, sometimes you fight waves of enemies, sometimes there are mini games, there are these like platforming challenges, sometimes you fight a mind-controlled character and you unlock them when you beat them so that you're always expanding your usable roster, you know, giving the mode kind of a fun sense of progression. Even better though, as you go, you earn and purchase power-ups and abilities that augment your moveset. You know, like light attacks do 30% more damage, or projectiles have a 15% chance to cause a debuff, that kind of thing. And this is really satisfying, naturally. You know, it's just fun to grow more powerful as you go. You can often choose what path you want to take through the campaign, so you can pick which mind control fighter you want to unlock or which store you want to visit, which, you know, adds replayability. And that's good because as the game advertises, the campaign features roguelike elements. Basically, when you die, you don't start all over, but you do go back to the beginning of the current area, the run, I guess they call it. And when you die, you visit the hub so you can buy some stuff and talk to characters as needed. I will admit, as with anything with roguelike elements, it can be a little bit frustrating to die, especially when it's like right at the end of a run on the boss. However, I have come to appreciate the system over time. I feel like it's probably the best for a game like this. Instead of a mode that you just blast straight through start to finish and then you're done, this keeps you coming back for more, keeps you getting better and better at fighting through sheer necessity. It keeps you experimenting with different abilities and characters, trying different paths through each area. It just gives you a lot to do and work toward, and finally besting a boss at the end of a run, it feels great. And also, if you want to practice for this mode, the game lets you play mini games and try out the boss rush mode whenever you want, so you can do that in order to, you know, prepare yourself for when you want to next tackle the campaign itself. Really, the campaign mode it's a good time. It's great for people like me. It just gives you something to do and work through. I liked the previous game, but I would say that this alone is pretty much enough to put the sequel quite high above the original in my eyes. And overall, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, it's a cool game. As a casual fighter, I can't give you a detailed technical analysis or anything, but I can definitely tell that it improves upon the first game a lot, and it offers a lot more to do, more mechanics to take advantage of, all that good stuff. And of course, as a classic Nick fan, the whole package satisfies me quite well. It's another loving tribute to the characters that I enjoyed as a kid, and hey, who am I kidding? Of course, I still enjoy today. I don't care who you are, Rocco will always be funny. Well, there you have it. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is available right now. Once more, I will remind you to click the link in the description if you would like to learn more. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go watch some Ren and Stimpy.